Bear in mind I make this video as a teacher of occupational students, meaning those with significant learning disabilities, honors and AP students, and as a head coach of a varsity sport. In my last volume of this series, linked below, I called into question the actual goal of a secondary education here in America. Most high school mission statements are so painfully broad and full of standard jargon that they're essentially meaningless. They tend to consist of some random drivel about challenging students and preparing them for the 21st century. Can you imagine being employed by a company and having them tell you that your job was to take a bunch of people, challenge them, and prepare them for the rest of the century? Would you even know where to start? Would there be any way for you to measure your success once your allotted time had elapsed? High school mission statements are intentionally frilly and vague because a high school would feel uncomfortable about writing one that actually expressed its real mission, which is to fill students' minds with enough information to pass state exams and try not to go broke in the process. The aforementioned video discussed the importance of expanding the curriculum we made available to students if our goal was to actually prepare them to go into the workforce or higher education. In reality, the goal should be to prepare our nation's students to be at least one of the 3 E's: enlisted, enrolled, or employed. At the very least, we should be giving our young adults enough options so they're not reduced to crime or welfare to make ends meet. If that's the case, then we should genuinely offer those students at least 4 major areas to develop in as they move from adolescence to adulthood. They should be given academic, artistic, athletic, and vocational opportunities. Due to the tradition of what school is, the curriculum the government really cares about is entirely academic, which means that not only does that branch receive the most bureaucratic quicksand that an educator has to wade through to actually teach something meaningful, but it also means that those other 3 areas are made expendable in the eyes of the school. The next domino that topples if we look at the sequential consequences of this governmental clusterfuck is the negligence of the simple fact that students are people. People who have different skill sets, passions, learning styles, and futures. We've attempted to stuff all of them into the academic box and ignore the passions and talents of our young athletes, artists, and blue-collar workforce. Athletes are acknowledged more than the latter two, but the overwhelming majority of people would agree that their academic priorities should supersede their athletic ones to such a degree that if they aren't performing well in the classroom, then they shouldn't be allowed to perform at all in athletic competition. I'd like to challenge that notion and to draw to your attention that I've never heard of students being forced to sit and watch an auto tech class or prohibited from participating in art club just because their GPAs weren't high enough or they were flunking chemistry class. Some students who thrive in athletics have very little interest or talent in the academic realm. That's not an inherently bad thing. They can still be good people. Due to the combination of nature and nurture that prunes us all, by the time they've reached high school, some are at the point where their interests and talents are firmly rooted elsewhere. Now, that's not an excuse for them to not go to class and try to develop some scholastic basics, and it's not an excuse for them to misbehave in class and disrupt the learning of others. However, if they aren't letting their non-academic personality prevent them from making an academic effort or from behaving well in class, why should a school punish them for poor academic results by stripping them of one of the areas, or in some case the exclusive area in their young lives, that they actually enjoy and find success in? If the only issue is the student's lack of scholastic achievement, how is punishment supposed to help him or her at all? For many young people, high school athletics offer discipline, social development, and behavioral progress that they have little chance of learning from teachers, and in some cases, no chance of learning from their parents. Taking that away from them is taking a step back from academic progress, not forward, especially if their sport was the primary thing that kept them coming to school or off the streets after school in the first place. Of course, coaches should be encouraging their athletes to strive for high achievement on the playing field and in the classroom, just as teachers should do for their student athletes. If the problems in the classroom do become behavioral or effort-based, a good coach can step in to correct that problem in a variety of ways. Those youth lose the influential potential of those coaches when rendered ineligible for sports just because they can't read on grade level, write well, or crunch numbers as well as a state test says they should. An athletic student who struggles in the classroom has no more choice over how his or her brain functions in the core subjects than does a straight A student with severe asthma have any choice over how fast and far he or she can run without stopping. We'd consider it absurd, however, if we told that straight-A student that he or she wasn't allowed to go to math class until able to run 1 mile at the same pace that the state decided was going to be the standard for youth health. Perhaps we haven't thought this eligibility issue through carefully enough.